Imagine the scene of the most violent prison in England. You probably have an idea of the kind of person who would be in there. Now, that idea probably wouldn't be somebody like me, but that's where you'd be wrong. I spent 6 months in the most violent prison in England, having lost a court hearing and was found in contempt. And what I want to share on this video is some of the lessons that I got from that experience that hopefully I can share with you so that whenever your adversity shows up, you'll have some techniques that I was able to use to really turn that experience into one of the greatest adventures I've ever had the privilege of living. Now, as most entrepreneurs know, litigation can be quite a powerful tool when it comes to arguing business deals in court. And that's what I fell foul of. But I remember saying at the time when I was given a 6-month sentence that I had two ways of looking at the scenario. One is that I could be a victim. One is that I could use this as an opportunity to really grow from this, learn from this, and really try to put one foot in front of the other as best I can. We all have our own prison sentences as such. We all have our own graduation events, whether that is a health challenge for some people, whether that's a relationship challenge or a divorce that people find traumatic, whether that is a business failure or staring down the barrel of something that is just really disheartening at that time. We all have experiences like that. And what I want to share are some of the lessons I had, because one of the first things that I was able to utilize was what I call a contrast frame. There's always something to be grateful for. When I walked into prison, one of the first things that I looked at was, wow, what would have happened, as did for many people at some point in the Second World War, what would have happened if this was Auschwitz? What would have happened if this was a concentration camp rather than a British prison in a first world country? Now, what would have happened if I'd have been given a life sentence or a 30-year plus sentence like Nelson Mandela? 17 years of which was on Robben Island, rather than just a 6-month sentence. Contrast frames are very, very powerful, but a lot of the time we contrast the wrong way. We contrast with what it was that we're missing rather than what it is that we can be grateful for. And I was able to get a lot of the prisoners to be thankful for not having a longer sentence rather than moaning at the sentence that they did get. Another thing that helped a lot was understanding the difference between liberty and freedom. A lot of the prisoners were moaning that they had a lack of freedom. And I was able to show them that, no, really, one of the biggest challenges is that freedom is a state of mind, and people forget that. Liberty relates to the ability to make decisions. We all have a decision space, and that decision space had just got a lot smaller. If you suddenly become bankrupt, your decision space is smaller. You can't choose to fly first class now, whereas previously you may have been able to. Our decision space is smaller, but freedom is a state of mind. See, being able to really manage that mindset, to come from an openness to possibility, asking better questions. How can I turn this to my advantage? What can I learn from this? Another one of the things that helped me tremendously was one of the keys that I learned in the book Think and Grow Rich, where Napoleon Hill states that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equivalent or greater benefit. I actually hand wrote that sign and put it above my cell door. The challenge is most people are way too focused on the adversity. And if you do that, you've got no energy with which to water the seed from which that greater benefit can sprout. Now, every 2 weeks, I actually wrote to my students. I was showing them what I was doing, how I was using my mind, how I was operating from the benefit of 2 decades in personal growth to actually put it into a real scenario. Because one of the things that I wrote right off the bat was that theory does not cover the price of admission to the higher levels of greatness. Most people get upset if they're operating from the model of life being a comfort-centric experience. Prison wasn't comfortable. I'm not in a comfort-centric experience. I recognize I'm in a growth-centric experience. And how do we grow? Go to the gym. You put the body through a discomfort that takes it past its perceived limitations so that it's programmed to return with a better version of itself. But what about our mind? How do you demonstrate to yourself how you can become a better version of yourself? Not by the body in the mirror, but by the mind and the soul and the heart together. Well, that happens the same way that steel is forged, not in an ice tray, but in a furnace. And if you look at people that have gone through adversity, people that have conquered or come out the other side of a dark night of the soul, every single one of them will tell you that they are grateful for that experience once they're downstream. Think about it. Almost everything that we've happened that we thought was negative at the time, 6 months later, we've looked back and think, wow, thank goodness I was doing, that happened, or thank goodness, that situation occurred. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this now. My question is, if you know that in advance, why wait 6 months? Every 2 weeks, I wrote, trying to encapsulate all of the lessons I was learning, all of the things that were unfolding, how I was using my mindset to not get depressed, to not get angry, to not get into denial, to not go into apathy, fear, guilt, or shame. I became fascinated by people that would stick on antidepressants or antipsychotic medication versus those that were there helping others and really utilizing their time there as a way to really serve and grow for themselves, so that when they left that environment, they would bring a better version of themselves back to society. Those letters that I wrote every 2 weeks were really the heart of tradecraft that I'd spent decades learning. All of the stuff that went into capturing in real time the adventure that I was on. And my students kept writing back saying that they were learning more from these letters on how they applied it to their own life, their own families, their own scenarios, their own trauma, their own challenges. And they were finding ways to grow rather than diminish. And when I came out of that experience, having stopped a lot of people with suicidal thoughts, having got a lot of people off drugs, having fundamentally shifted the intake system to reduce violence between the wings, something I won a national award for, something that's now being used in prisons all over the world, affecting tens of thousands of people every month. When I came out of that experience, they asked me if I would share those letters with the general public. And I did. I put them together. The unedited, unfiltered, raw letters that became the inside track. And this book has changed tens of thousands of lives and has accolades from some of the greatest names in personal growth that have said it's one of the most profound pieces of writing that they've ever come across, because we get to share what we teach and show how it works in a scenario where most people would never want to be. That's how you know it's real. I want to give you the first chapter, the first lesson, the first letter that I wrote that contains all of how I was adjusting my mindset, all of the lessons that I knew that I would look to learn through the journey when I was first facing the harshest part of that adversity, being thrown into a prison cell. How do you shift your mind? I remember walking into the cell the first time, and the guy behind me, it was going to be my cellmate I just met, and I walked in, I stopped, and I'm like, wow. He says, what? He probably thought there was a door on the other side leading to freedom. I was like, this is amazing. He says, what? Tell me. I said, they've given us our own meditation room with a toilet. He must have thought I was crazy. And my point being is, no, I wasn't crazy. I was unconsciously in a place where I was reframing everything as a positive. And to get to that level of unconscious competence where you can see everything in life as a benefit, everything as a positive. Somebody leaves you in a relationship, you don't go to pieces and say, I'm no good, so they left me. You say, wow, thank God they left, so they made room for somebody who's right. Or you honor them for walking their truth, so you can now walk your truth, whatever it may be. See, if you train the muscle now, you can use the muscle to lift the weights when it's heavy. But if you rely on theory only, and you have to lift the weights when it's a real test, you're going to hurt your arms. So this book is a way to really practice in the gym, to be able to give you the techniques, the methodology, the thinking, the tools that took me 20 plus years to learn, condensed into a masterclass of how to handle adversity. So next time it shows up, as it will by design, you can be much better prepared to lift whatever weight with a smile, to be able to turn that adversity into an equivalent or greater benefit. So if you'd like a copy of the first chapter of this, as a thank you from me, where you're going to learn some of the techniques on how to instantly shift from a state of depression to a state of gratitude, how you're going to be able to understand how to reframe adversity quickly and powerfully, then simply click the link below, opt in, and I will send you the first chapter of this book with my compliments free of charge. And I can promise you, just on that first chapter, you're going to learn a tremendous amount of some of the techniques and skills that'll benefit you in your journey for whatever the adversity is that you may be facing now or in the future. Hit the link, enjoy the book, and I'll see you on the inside.